Okay, good. It's recording now. So, besides the domain experience, you have product experience. So, product experience is something, this type of vision is a reflection of ideal customer experience um, that you are working towards. And it will basically show us how the users will experience the product by addressing um, known points or different gaps if there are multiple certain gaps while understanding the product experience if a certain exact solution is not specified particularly. So that is another information source for product vision. uh, let's say we have some many voice user interface devices and voice examples which are available in the market right now. You may be using or may have heard about Amazon Alexa, Google Home, Siri, or Cortana. These are some sort of Google assistants, okay, which take the what do they do actually? They take the input in the format of voice or speech, okay, take it as an input and return it in the same manner. Or let's say you ask something to Amazon Alexa or your any sort of Google assistants, they will give you that particular information if that is already programmed. And if any new products in that particular area are going to be developed later on, so they can take the advantage of recent developments, technological developments, using whatever speech interfaces I just told you about. So they can take the information from there and use it for further development or further advancements. Uh, Next information source is your customer experience and then your prototyping. Um, the product vision basically describes the purpose of a product and the intention um, with which the product is being created and what it aims to achieve for the customers or the users. So, customer experience, so there may be certain companies or industries which may have mastered the product vision process or particularly the customer experience process by focusing on delivering a delightful customer experience to their users. So for example, we can take the certain examples such as Tesla, okay, the company, or the IKEA, the furniture store. So who's in those companies or industries, though who's they have their own products and they have developed with the intention of elevating the customer's life specifically. They're so much customer experience focused industries. So this is another information source for product vision, which will be helpful for the new product development. Then comes the prototyping. So what is this? Let's see. So when a customer actually wants a new product and often they do not have the idea what they want the product to look like or what the product actually should do. Initially they do not have that clear understanding of that. So they just know that they want it to make it happen in some way, and it is not at all clear or easier for the development team to produce. And in these times, the team is left in a position where the customer is either unclear or unsure, and the team is left to figure out how to make it work. Okay, so the most important part of this process is gaining the knowledge needed to have ideas that could work mostly. And with this type of knowledge, your team can actually build some sort of mock-ups. Those are nothing but your prototypes. We call them mock-ups or prototypes, and those can be tested further to see which of them will work or which of them actually will stick to the main focus points of the product. So the prototypes are usually cheap to build and you can easily discard them also after you have a clear understanding of the product. Okay, so that is your product prototyping. These are the product vision information sources. Let's move on to software product management. So, software product management, certain times it is also called your digital project management, or you can just say product management. So, it is the discipline of building, implementing, and managing the software products by taking into account the life cycle considerations and the audience. So, to develop, sell, and support a successful software product, a business needs to solve a market problem. They have to basically understand its market, identify the opportunity, as well as develop and market an appropriate piece of software. Okay. So, hence, this product management is considered as a core business function in the software companies. And most of the times, the major user, which is mostly responsible, who is the product manager. So, software product manager, they can lead or manage one or more or one or several products from the inception or the starting point of the product in order to create the customer value, deliver measurable business benefits, everything. Okay. So product manager certain plays an important role in your software product management. So he or she can be involved in planning the product, development of the product, discussing about the marketing, how it can be properly marketed, or everything they have to um, look after. That is your software product management. So here, these are some of the product management concerns. Okay. So some of the concerns are your business needs, customer experience, and technology constraints. Okay. They have been explained in further in the next slides. You can look into them later on. So product manager, the main concern. So let's see what is the business needs actually. So product managers usually have to ensure that software which is being developed, it meets certain standards or business goals of the software development company. Okay. And next concern is your technology constraints, where the product managers must make the developers aware of the technological issues which are important to the customers. Then technology issues or technological limitations. Then customer experience. So here the product managers, they should be in regular contact with the customers to understand what are they looking for in the product and what type of users are there, basically to understand their backgrounds of the users and what are the different ways in which the product can be used. These are some of the concerns that the product manager should look into while development of a new product. Then, okay, that I just explained about it. Mm. Next, the technical interactions of product managers. So, a product manager, how does he or she technically interact in various scenarios with the product of the product development? So, let's see what is this product vision management. So the product manager here, he may be responsible for helping with the development of product vision, and he should always be responsible for managing the vision, which involves accessing and evaluating the proposed changes against the product vision. Okay. Then there is your User stories and scenarios development. Um, like your prototyping, there are other concepts which are important in product development or software development. Those are user stories and scenarios. So, user stories scenarios are used to refine a product vision, and they can identify the product features as well. So, based on the customer's knowledge, the product manager can lead the development of stories and various scenarios. And based on those stories, scenarios, they will develop helpful information. It may be technical information or customer experience related interaction. They will just document it out, which will be used for in your product development or software development. Then next, your product backlog management. So the product backlog, it is it is supposed to be prioritized as a to-do list of what has to be developed, and product managers should be involved in creating and refining the backlog and deciding on the priority of the product features to be developed. So whenever there is a development process going on, there may, I mean, it is always you know the developers or any other persons who are concerned with the product development, they have to go through a sequential steps, but at certain point of time, due to certain reasons, technical issues or other type of failures or errors, they have to go back again. So there may be some items or certain development items which may be in the to-do list or in the backlog list. So product manager will basically manage them or prioritize them, how the development has to happen. Then next is your user interface design. So in this case, the product manager should understand the user limitations and how they can interact with the actual development team, and they should evaluate the user interface features as they are developed to check that these features are not unnecessarily complex or force users to work in an unnatural way. So basically the user the way, the interface or the mediary through which the user will actually interact with the system, it has to be simple, doesn't have to be complex, so that user cannot understand the system at all. Okay. Next, your acceptance testing. So acceptance testing is the process of verifying that the software meets the goals that is actually set up in the product development process, before the product development process, and that product is actually efficient and reliable. Okay. And this actually acceptance testing actually happens along with the development of the product, so that phase by phase they can test it, particularly whether the system is actually performing the way it has been wanted to. And product managers should be involved in developing the tests for the product features that can reflect how the customers will actually use the product. Next comes your customer tasting. So, customer tasting um, involves taking the release of a product to customers and getting feedback on the product's features, usability, and the business as well. So, product managers are involved in selecting customers to be um, involved in the customer tasting process and working with them during that process. So from this, you can just differentiate in between the acceptance testing and customer testing is that acceptance testing, who are the users here actually? The development team and the testing team itself in the company who um, have actually played the role for development in the product development. But customer testing, here the product will be released to the customer directly, okay, to the client, and the customer will work with the software or the product, and they will see whatever is the end product, it is performing well, executing well or not, and or in any case they want to change something or modify something, um, they can then explain it to the product manager in the company. And further it can be maintained, that is called your maintenance phase. So after the customer tests the product in the maintenance phase, product maintenance it is called, they will again take the customer's concerns, and some development team people will support for maintaining the product after that. So here are the product manager's technical interactions. They have been explained in the next slide. Okay. Next, let's come to the important concept in software development, which is your product prototyping. So, product prototyping. So, I just mentioned that it is like a mock up for understanding the requirements of the software product development. So prototyping is a foundational process for developing a new product through the physical representation of an idea. Okay, so we can take an example. So there may be engineers who may complete a working model for a prototype to test a product before it is approved for manufacturing. Okay, so let's take an example. It may not be that clear to you. I'm just trying to explain it. So suppose there is a website. Okay, let's say bank website. So there need to be, so suppose the customer actually wants the bank page has to be seen in a particular way. Some logo will be here, some information will be here. Suppose customer inform the uh, bank customer information will be here, bank employees information, or some other details. So how they would actually want their page to look like, and this page can also be connected to other sub pages. So um, banking process, how it goes. Okay, for maintaining various types of accounts, it may be checking, savings account, multiple types of checking accounts, multiple types of saving accounts, or some other transactional details or processes. So the whole workflow, not overflow, whole workflow should be explained with some sort of mock-up like this. So this mock-up will be presented to the client, the banking client, and they will certainly approve it. After the approval, you have a particular understanding of the product to be developed. Then taking into consideration or the prototype or the mock-up, the development will start actually. Okay. So a prototype is also used to help identify fundamental software components or services, or to test a certain technology. So building a prototype should be the first thing that you should do when developing a software product, and your aim should be always having a working version of your software that can be used to demonstrate its key features. Okay. Um, So there can be other situations. Suppose you at certain point of time, you can always plan to throw away or discard the prototype after development and to re-implement the software again, um, taking account of issues such as there may be security issues or reliability issues or some sort of platform dependency issues. So based on the issues, you do not have to just stick to a particular prototype. No, that is the initial development, okay, initial mock-up to understand the requirement. It can be, uh, it is changeable based on the customer requirement. Then next, two stages of prototyping. There are two stages actually, feasibility and customer demonstration. So feasibility demonstration, here you actually create an executable system that demonstrates the new ideas in your product, and the aims at this stage are to see if your ideas actually work, and to show the company management or whoever are the funding people of the management, they can see the original product features, and that are better than those in the competing products. And the customer demonstration is, you can take an existing prototype created to demonstrate the feasibility and extend this with your ideas for specific customer features and how they can be realized. So before you develop this type of prototype, you need to do some user studies and have a clear picture of the potential user, various types of user concerns or user scenarios. Okay, these are two stages of your product prototyping. And yeah, so we are done with the first chapter. These are some key points, just an overview of what concepts we have covered. So basically, what are software products, and various other concerns. So what is product software engineering, service software engineering, then the three different types of systems that we saw in last class. Suppose your standalone system, hybrid systems, or service-based systems. Okay, then next comes your product vision and various concepts associated with it. And then these are the domain experience, product experience, customer experience, or software prototyping that we just saw today. So with this, we are done with the chapter 1. And so just read the book content and complete the test and the discussion. You can click on the test to see the due date. Let me click on it. Yeah, it's due on February 6th. Mm. And the discussion, you have to post your own discussion, own points. You have to make your own posting by February 3rd and have to respond to other students, for comment or feedback portion by the 7th. So try to complete everything by 7th. Do not be late. And does anyone have any questions? I just need some time. I'm opening the second chapter content. Hold on a second. Mm, okay, at Teams. Let me check again. I don't. 1 second. Mm. There are actually 5 attempts in the quiz. Yeah, even better. Okay. I'm just trying to make some changes in the settings of second folder. Uh, I just need few minutes. You all can now see the Unit 2 Agile Software Engineering in Blackboard. So the objectives, Then some videos are available to you. I have not, posted any tests or discussions, but they will be posted soon. Mm, just 1 second. Can you all see the chapter 2 PPT PDF now? I think it's visible. Yeah. Okay, good. So, in your second chapter, this is about agile software engineering. So, this is one type of approach or methodology which is widely adopted in all, you can say, in all the software engineering, all the software companies right now. Any development team, testing team, they are widely adopting the agile methodology so that it makes the software product development more faster than it was before. Okay, so here we're going to discuss about the qualities of good requirements in the system. Then we'll understand about requirement analysis. We will look into how the user stories can be developed, um, looking into the agile scenario, then how to create the various use cases, and how to generate the UML use case diagram. So uh, in your Java, if you so I think most of you have completed Java already, and you may have drawn some sort of diagrams or flow charts. Unified modeling language, the flow chart diagrams that you have developed, you may have uh, developed similar type of diagrams in database development as well. So why do you actually create those diagrams? Basically to understand the workflow of the whole system, what is going on inside the system. So before starting your development, you have to prepare that UML diagram. And again, the UML diagrams are of various types. So this is one type, is your wedge use case diagram, which we will look into it in this chapter. So let's get started now. Agile software engineering. So there are many approaches for the software development, but one thing which actually separates the agile methodology from other approaches or methodologies to software development is actually to focus on people doing the work and how they work together. Okay. So solutions actually evolve through the collaboration between um, various diversified teams utilizing appropriate practices for their individual context. Okay. Uh, so there are a large number of agile methods have been developed, but there are various types of agile methods are there. But we can say there is no best agile method or technique actually, and it actually depends on who is using the technique. It may be the development type and what is the actually type of the product. So based on those requirements, you have to adopt a certain agile methodology. Then, as I mentioned here, that Agile methodology is widely adopted because to make the software product development more faster, it has to be rapid, and virtually all of the software products are now developed with this approach. So that's why I just mentioned it is widely adopted right now. So its main focus is to quickly deliver the software, and it is also very much adaptable to changing product specifications, or can also help with minimizing the development resources or overheads or certain type of limitations. Then this approach is based on controlled and rigorous software development process, and that include actually detailed project planning, requirement specification and analysis, and system modeling. So, but however, your plan driven development involves significant overheads and documents, and it does not support the rapid development and delivery of software. And this methodology is developed somewhere around 1990s, you know, and you can look at the history of this in the chapter. And this type of methods, agile methods, mostly focus on the software rather than its documentation. Okay, and they develop the software in a series of increments, and they try to reduce the process complexity as much as possible. Okay. So there are various plan-driven development which are mostly developed or evolved to support the engineering of large or long durable systems such as your aircraft control systems, where different teams may be there, and they can be dispersed, or they can be placed geographically in multiple locations, and work on a software for several years. So because of that, this type of methodology is very helpful. Then comes your Agile Manifesto. Um, so here you can say manifesto means values, various the different values which are most important for the Agile process or approach. So the values or the manifesto attributes are the individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Okay, so emphasis should be on the individuals and the interactions. Then working software over comprehending the documentation. You don't just have to rely on the documentation of the product. You need a working software. So that's why we have the prototype. Then rather than the contract negotiation, we emphasis will be on customer collaboration and responding to the change over following a plan. So these are some of the necessary values which we have in the Agile Manifesto. So I mentioned about the incremental development of the Agile approach. So what is this actually? So with incremental development, you start by prioritizing the features so that the most important features are implemented first. Okay, that is your incremental development, and in that you only define the details of the feature which is going to be implemented in an incremental basis, and that feature is then implemented and delivered. So here users or other surrogate users in the system, they can try it out and try to provide feedback to the development team. So while the development is going on, the users or the customers are also they also work closely with the team, so that in case any feedback is needed, so they can directly provide it, and again the development process will be changed based on their feedback or requirement. And you then go on define and implement the next feature of the system. So that is how it makes the development faster. You actually previously what happened in other nowadays everybody is using agile methodology, but previously it was we have different technologies or sorry, different approaches where after the product is developed, then it goes to the customer or the user to test it. But now here in the agile, user work closely with the development team, so that as long as if they find something is missing or something they want to change or want to add, they can directly give their responses, and based on that, that development process will be changed. Here is your incremental development. This is the main process. So first is your choose features to be included in the incremental process, then refine the feature description, implement and test the feature, integrate the feature to system, and then deliver the system increment. So from we need a first a product feature list. What are the major functionalities or features of the product? From that, you need to choose your features which can be included in the incremental process. So in this first phase, using the list of features in the planned product, only select those features that can be implemented in the product development. You just have to filter all the features out. Then in the refine feature description, you need to add detail to the feature descriptions so that team members have a common understanding of each feature and there is sufficient detail to begin with the implementation. Okay. Uh, then next comes your implement and test feature. So implementing the feature and developing the automated tests for the feature that can so that how the behavior is consistent with the description. After implementing, we need to test also. Gradually with the testing, it makes the development more consistent. The next comes your integrate feature into system, where whatever developed feature you have after the implementation and testing phase, integrate the developed feature with the existing system and then test it out to check whether that works in conjunction with other features or not. The integration has to be successful. Next is your deliver system increment. So this one in here, the customer or product manager, they basically check the system or comment, provide any feedback or comment, and if enough features have been implemented, then release a certain version of the system for customer use. But still the process is underway. Okay, the process is going on. If again the customer looks at the features and sees that okay, no, we need some sort of change, then there has to be a certain team, development team, who have to provide maintenance support for the product. Hope it makes sense to you. And this process, this incremental development process is plays a very vital role in your agile, and that's what makes the product development more faster than it was before. The descriptions of that. Next, we have agile development principles. Uh, various principles are there. These are the three. Then next we have other two. Five principles are there involving the customer. First principle. So by applying this concept, it will increase your processes agility and respond to changes in a timely fashion. On the other hand, your customers will be happier because they will get the value they are paying for more frequently. Okay, and also they will be able to provide you with the feedback early on, so you will be able to decrease the likelihood of making significant changes later in the process of development. Then in embrace change, Um, in your traditional project management process, any late stage changes are taken with uh, with a grain of salt. Usually means some sort of issues are there, and it may also lead to higher costs or higher use of resources. But in Agile, the teams mainly aim to embrace the uncertainty and acknowledge that even a late change can still bear a lot of value to the end customer. Uh, what happened in the previous, unlike your Agile, in the previous approaches, the user will only be able to give the feedback once the project product is fully developed and released. So by the time it is released and executed by the user directly, no, a whole lot of resources has been consumed, a whole lot of cost has been consumed. So that is something you can minimize in your Agile development process. Then develop and deliver incrementally. Um, we just look into that. What is this incremental development? So this principle became necessary due to extensive amount of documentation which were part of the planning process in software development before in the traditional process. But logically, you can reduce the time frame for which you are planning and spend more time working on your projects. So, in other words, your team will be able to plan it in a more agile way. Okay, agile means your incremental development with close user interaction. That's what makes it more faster. The next principle is maintain simplicity. So, simplicity means decluttering of the products. It should be as simple as it can be, and not trying to be more manipulative. We're trying to be more honest, open, or trustworthy, and decluttering your workspace or working in open spaces. So everybody has to open with everybody else. Okay. So in the Agile approach, everything is the whole product development or software development is carried in a more openly manner. So everything is clarified, and it usually adds up to the faster process of the product development. Then focus is always on people, not on the development process. So at regular interval, I just mentioned about the user interaction, close user interaction with the development team. So at regular interval, the team reflects on how to become more effective and then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So you have to trust the development team and do not expect that everyone have to do the things in the same way. They have their own ways. Okay. But team members should be left off to develop their own ways, working without being limited by certain processes that this is something has to be done in a particular way. It's not like that. Okay. Next comes your extreme programming. uh, in your extreme programming, it is a methodology, software development methodology, and that is a part of your agile methodology. Actually, extreme programming is built upon values, principles, practices, and its goal is to allow the small to medium-sized teams to produce high quality software and to adopt evolving the changing requirements. Okay, and its main intention is to improve the software quality and responsiveness to changing the customer requirements. Okay, so this name was given by Ken Peck in 1998, and it was developed by pushing the recognized good practice such as iterative development to extreme levels. Let's look into more details about this. Uh, so here see the extreme programming practices. The most widely used extreme programming practices are highlighted here in red. These five, okay, and these are explained in more detail in your book. I'll suggest to read the book. Let's look into each one of them. The first one, let's say the incremental planning. Incremental planning is associated with your user stories. So in order to, what goes on in this phase, actually in this practice incremental planning, you create user stories. So user stories can be viewed as a smaller version of a use case. So here in this way, the customer define as briefly as possible the specification of new application. What are the new application features, their values, their priorities. And these user stories will be the base of the project team to do cost estimation and management of the project. We will look into some examples how the user stories are created later on. Um, then your small releases, these are the building blocks. So extreme programming emphasizes on small, simple but frequent versions, updates of the application, and each newly added requirement will instantly incorporate and the system is re-released. Then comes your testing. So in your testing, test first development, every small release, which is just the building block, must pass the tests before being released. And extreme programming uniqueness in this aspect is that the tests are created first and then application code is developed. So usually in traditional approach, what happens? You write the requirements are written, okay, requirements are developed. What are the requirements of the software product? Then based on the requirement you develop the product, then you test the product and release the product. But here in this case, first the test cases are developed based on the requirement or the software prototype or your user stories, and then your development is actually, the code is actually developed or implementation part is done. The next is your continuous integration. So continuous integration here, software builds which are created in your small releases, software builds are completed several times a day. So in this way, all developers can avoid the work fragmentations because they continuously releasing and integrating the code together. So actually what happens when you are developing a software product, right? There may be certain pages. Suppose this is one software build, this is one software build. There are multiple steps through, and different teams are looking into different types of requirements or different builds. But at last, the whole system to perform um, or function in a particular way, correct way, the whole system has, all the builds has to be integrated together properly so that as a whole they should work correctly. But actually in the traditional approach, what happened previously, um, you have to wait for completion of all these four builds, then you integrate them together, and due to some reason, the system may not work properly. Okay, but in here in your extreme programming agile methodology, you do a continuous integration whenever some, let's say these two parts are not developed, but these two are developed, and they are supposed to be integrated together to perform correctly. So by the time you're done developing of this software build, then it can be integrated with this one and this one. So all of three can be incremented. So if there is some issue, you do not have to look into this two. You have to look into just only this one software build and make changes based on, or make corrections based on the requirement. So this is one type of scenario which makes the software development faster. And that is also one type of your extreme programming practices. Then comes your refactoring. Uh, in refactoring, the application should be continually adjusted and improved by all team members. And this requires extremely good communication between members to avoid the work duplication. Okay, so after this, these are the description of those practices. Let's do one thing. This is a new concept. So let's start the Scrum in the next week, and we will complete this whole chapter. Okay. So up to this point, does anyone have any question?
I had a couple questions.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Regarding the test, I know that it has multiple attempts. Are those attempts averaged, or is it just the top one?
Whichever attempt you get the maximum score, that will be recorded.
Okay. In regards to the content of that test, is it the entirety of the first chapter in that
Yeah.
first PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I understand that you would like us to read the book, and I definitely will, because it does have some good examples in there for pictures and whatnot for diagrams. But as far as studying for these tests, would the slides be sufficient, or are there certain things in the book we would